Welcome to New Stripe City, a YouTube channel for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie. The Bengals, they're having pretty much their best free agency period ever. That's still to be judged because based on the history, they have had some free agent busts, and that's what today's video is going to be about. We're going to review the top 10 modern era Bengals free agent busts. That's right. We're going to get into it. We're going to give you some background, but please listen to our local sponsor. We interrupt this programming to help New Stripe City raise funds for this channel. Who they? New Stripe City community, I am glad to announce that I am a proud partner with Fanatics, an NFL officially licensed merchandising company. What does this mean? This means that you can get any kind of apparel, legit hats, draft hats, jerseys. This AJ Green jersey is $59.99 right now. Check it out. All you have to do to support the channel and to support me is to look at the links in the description that I post. Click on them. Once you go and open a new page, it'll bring up that specific item. All you have to do is purchase the item. Like this AJ Green $59.99 Color Rush jersey. It's a lick and it's real. It's real. It's legit. So all you have to do is go through that, check out, make your purchase, and you will be helping out New Stripe City. New Stripe City is also partnered with Amazon as well. So check out the links in the bio with the Joe Exotic shirt. Get you some cool stuff, especially with the draft coming up. You got to be fresh, right? You got to be fresh for this draft. So check out the Tiger King inspired Joe Burrow, Joe Exotic shirt. Link is in the bio. All you have to do is click my link, make your purchase, and you help grow this channel of New Stripe City. Now back to your regularly scheduled. Welcome back to New Stripe City, a YouTube channel for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie. Please be sure to leave some likes and feedback on this video, but without further ado, we are going to kick this list off. Now, guys, don't kill me. These are my personal opinions. I kind of did some research on these guys and tried to put together a top 10 list of guys that I felt like were quote unquote free agent busts for the Bengals. So starting out the list at number 10, it's going to be Aaron Maybin. And Maybin had pretty much already been established as a bust for the most part, since he played for two other teams with the Jets and the Bills, and he was signed in January of 2013, and he was released during the preseason the same year in August of 2013, so didn't even make the roster. If you were watching Hard Knocks that year, he was more worried about his art and did not stand a chance at making the Bengals roster, which was very disappointing. So he starts off the list at 10, and number 9. Number 9 for me is going to be wide receiver Matt Jones. Now, Matt Jones was a first-round receiver taken by Jacksonville, and he had kind of been down on his luck. And Chad Ochocinco was quoted as saying that he had troubles like Chris Henry, but I give Mike Brown credit for bringing him in. He's not afraid to give people second chances. And so we thought that Matt Jones would be a reclamation project, something similar to Pac-Man Jones, and he was not it. He was only on the practice squad and was cut during the preseason of the T.O. and Chad era. So Matt Jones stops in at number 9. So number 8 on the list is going to be offensive tackle Marshall Newhouse. Newhouse was signed to the Bengals coming from the Green Bay Packers. He was Andy Dalton's left tackle in college at TCU, and the Bengals thought that he could play right tackle for Andre or left tackle for Whitworth when they were in a pinch. Unfortunately, when that time came, Newhouse pretty much played like Cedric Ogbuehi before Cedric Ogbuehi was a thing, and he was just the ultimate one-and-done guy. As soon as we saw what we had in him, it was over. It wasn't a sequel to that. So Marshall Newhouse comes in at number 8. So as we keep going through this thing, we're now at number 7. And number 7 on this list for me, I'm going to go with linebacker Kevin Minter. For me, Kevin Minter was a guy that was supposed to be the answer after the Carlos Dansby signing didn't go as planned, right? So we opted to go for a younger guy. We signed Kevin Minter, but he only started for 7 games and only had 32 combined tackles, so not really great stats there. He ended up getting hurt, and he finished the season on IR and was never brought back. So Carlos Dansby could have made this list, but Kevin Minter, being younger and not 34, we expected a lot more. So Kevin Minter, you got the number 7 spot, sir. So number 6, this one was tough for me because I thought that this guy was a solid player, but he didn't live up to, I think, the expectations of Jonathan Joseph, and that's Nate Clemente. Nate Clemente was signed after the 49ers cut him. They signed him to a 2-year, $10.5 million deal. He started the 2011 season, but he later lost his starting position to Terrence Newman once he was signed, and then they tried to move him to safety, and then he lost that job to Chris Crocker after 6 games. So Nate Clemente, I would think, given the expectations that you had coming in, being a guy that was supposed to replace Jonathan Joseph, he fell short of that and didn't work out in his transition to safety either. So that's why he makes number 6 to me. Number 5 on this list, I think all Ohio State fans will have to agree that Jayhawk was very underwhelming. Like, this was a signing that was announced on the first day of free agency. This was the first time the Bengals had ever done anything like that. And there was a lot of excitement because this guy was a former Buckeye, and, you know, we thought that we were getting somewhat of a decent player. At this point, he was 31, but we realized quickly that Jayhawk was just a shell of his former self, to the point where he couldn't even play special teams. So the Bengals ended up releasing him a year later, and then ended up signing, ironically, Carlos Dansby, which that didn't work out as well. He's probably in the honorable mention for this list as well. So number 4, that brings me to Antwon Odom. Antwon Odom was signed coming off of a good season for the Titans, where he had about 8 sacks, and the Bengals decided, let's go ahead and sign this guy to a 5-year, $39.5 million deal. And in his first season, Odom was a bust, pretty much only racking up 3 sacks in that first season in 2008. He had a bounce-back season in 2009, having 8 sacks in 6 games, but then he finished the next season with 0 sacks, so the Bengals just had to go ahead and cut this guy. So they ended up cutting him in 2011, not even getting into that 4th and 5th year. So Antwon Odom, you had to go into this top 5, bro. All right, so now we're getting into the top 3, and it's getting pretty juicy. And for number 3, I've got to go with Sam Adams. Sam Adams, to me, was one of the biggest busts that the Bengals had in terms of free agency. And in 2006, they signed him, and this was a guy that was a 6-time Pro Bowler, right? They signed him to a 3-year contract. He was a former Super Bowl champion from the Ravens with that early 2000s defense, and he was supposed to be a stud defensive tackle. Marvin Lewis even went out and said that he thought that Adams was going to upgrade the Bengals defensive unit. The only issue was that Sam Adams was 32, was on his 5th team, and ended up being a complete shell of his former self. So Sam, my guy, you got to go in this top 3. And number 2 for me, I think that this was another issue similar to the Jonathan Joseph with the TJ Houshmandzadeh thing. It's got to be Lavernius Coles, man. Lavernius Coles arguably could have been the worst all-time free agent signing for the Bengals because he only caught 43 passes on 77 targets, had a meager 514 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns, and he also had a pretty costly fumble in the wild card playoff loss to the Jets. He was absolutely nothing across from Ocho Cinco, especially once the Bengals got into the playoffs against the Jets. He did not do anything, and he was released the next season. They just didn't even bring him back. So a year after he signed, he was released. And that brings us to the number 1 spot, which you guys can probably already guess this. You're diehard Bengals fans. You know that it's going to be Antonia Bryant. I mean, God. We signed this guy to a 4-year, $28 million contract in 2010. Didn't even know about his knee problems, and despite the knee problems, our medical staff overlooked those issues and gave him $8 million upfront in guaranteed money. He never even ended up playing a down for the Bengals, and they had to cut their losses, releasing him before the regular season. We had that fake big 3 that was supposed to be him, Chad, and T.O. that never happened. So the Bengals apparently paid him $8 million to never play a down in Cincinnati. So without further ado, that wraps up our top 10. Please let me know in the comments what you guys think about this. This is definitely nothing personal against the players. This is just my opinion of free agent signings that didn't work out. So hopefully we are not adding to this list next year. But I really wanted to do some Bengals nostalgic type videos. Felt like this was a good opportunity to do that. There are, some people that I may have missed, especially since I did my other top 10 video. So let me know in the comments who you guys thought was a bust that I left out, or someone that should have been rated higher. Definitely let me know. I love going through and reading those comments. But as usual, I'll leave you guys with a who day, all day, every day, and especially on Sunday.